Hello guys, Mr. Jerry speaking. Welcome out to 2020 day number 302. I am so sorry for a huge delay. I just recently came back from other things random. So today I got to do hold on one sec. Let me delete this real fast. We'll get things ready. Okay, let me see here. Delete this because I just got done taping this real fast. It was huge, so there you go. Okay, there we go. Got it. Check. Okay, 302. We're getting close, but anyway. Yeah. Let me delete that now. And braces the trash, yeah. Why? Erasable things, you know. Got it. I'm done now. Anyway, let's go ahead and tape LJPCBM ads episode number 302. No, 561. Excuse me. And we're gonna wrap up with 2 more projects with the bang after I call remix. Anyway, check off that project and we'll get this out of the way. Hey. Alright, did I confirm that already? Yes, oh, what the hell? Hang on. Okay, I'm done for the night. I'm done for the day with Facebook. But anyway, continue on. Gotta go ahead and quit this and record. So I may have to delete this now before I have to begin this. Okay, there we go. Got it. Time. Mute my TV and let's get started. Come on. There. Okay. Oh. Hang on. It's not showing up. Hang on, let me try again. Let me restart. Let me shut down my computer again. Get this ready to go before we actually begin. Yep, we're experiencing some difficulties. I'll be right back. Back, folks. Let's see if this goes on. Let's see. Before we actually begin, let me go to a new tab first and go to YouTube and see what happens. Instagram. Stories and see what happens. No. I know that, but I'm looking for proper roads. Oh yeah, PRP clips. I did not think of that. Oh, it's not there yet, okay. Sorry, 9 o'clock. Can't be a 10 episode because it's going to busy transition, you know. It's going to be an LJPCBM episode that day, so let's see here. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. We're looking forward to it, but I will attend it I will attend that day, so let's just see here. Let's make 45 a big one. Close that out because we're going to do a 46 episode of LJPCBM, 45th one of LJPCBM, so let's see what happens. Fingers crossed. If I can do this. Fingers crossed. Oh, there we go. Got it. Hello guys, this is Jerry speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM React, episode number 561. And today I'll be reacting to Purple Roads, episode 45. Howard Bergendale from Who in the World with Carmen Sandiego, something like that. And we'll react to this begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. It's gonna load. Okay, never mind. Checkpoint. Oh, come on! Oh, there we go.
I'm Carrie Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour, and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show, Barney and Friends. Now, my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carrie Stinson, and this is Purple Roads.
Okay.
Welcome to Purple Roads. I'm Carrie Stinson, and we have such a fun, exciting episode this week. We have Howard Blumenthal, who you'll know him for a lot of different things, but he's probably most famous, especially on this show, for being the co-creator and producer of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. Howard,
Wow.
how are you?
Hey, good. Good to be here.
Oh, I'm very excited to bring you on this week. I was a big fan of the show.
Wow.
Absolutely loved it.
Hopefully that'll be part of a really good story. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, you've got some exciting things that you're doing these days too, and I love this project. So I want to talk about all the different things that you've done. But I want to start out by how you got into this world of kids entertainment.
Well, a bit of a cheat because my father did. So I really sort of looked to him. It was the early 1950s, I want to say 53, 54 in there somewhere. And he had been working as an assistant art director at Esquire magazine. And
Wow.
wanted to work in this new television industry, but couldn't quite figure out how to get into it, right? So he had lunch with a friend and his friend and all that. And it turned out that Barry and Enright Productions had this show called Winky Dink and You. And
Wow.
Winky Dink was one of the first children's television shows on CBS. It was
Okay.
rather a hit, and they were going to a second day. So they needed to hire, they were on Saturdays and they were going to pick up Sundays or something. And they needed to hire a writer and an artist. So my father was the artist, and the writer was a guy named Dick DiBartolo, who ends up writing all the Match Game, all that
Sure.
great stuff. He's been in the business forever and ever and ever.
Wow.
So the two of them got hired. Now he's in children's television, but he's mostly focused on merchandising and licensing and building board games and all that. So he worked some on the show, but he actually spent most of his time working on the other side of it. Really, some of the first children's merchandising, in the world. So
Wow.
I can blame him for that too, right? That was fun. I mean, there's a picture of me in a Winky Dink and You Halloween costume somewhere
Wow.
with a Winky Dink and
With
You
a rainbow.
record player next to me. So there we are. So from there, he went to Barry and Enright, continued up until the quiz scandals. Then things didn't go quite as well. He was very much an innocent in that. He didn't know what was going on. He was an associate producer type. And he ended up producing a show called Concentration on NBC for well over
Wow.
a decade, and kept it
These game shows were amazing. Watch this, David. Continue on.
more or less in the top 5 of daytime. So it was a big hit, and I grew up at NBC as a result. So as I say, I didn't go the normal route.
Well, is there a normal route in this crazy world of?
There is not. Emphatically, there is not. Everybody's story is as wacky and crazy and unexpected, and you did what? And somehow we all end up working together in a studio and we do good stuff, right? But how that happens, it's a mystery to all of us.
Yeah.
So you've worked on a lot of different productions, and I want to know kind of where from the beginning came up with Carmen Sandiego, because a lot of my audience will know this, how popular that show was, and I can't stop thinking of the song. But I think you hit it in so many different levels, from the host and the band and and the whole concept of that, and I think the subject matter of geography. So where did all that come from?
So here's the sort of pre-story, right? Because I think, because all of it makes sense when you realize, oh, those were the people, oh, that's what happened, right? So concentration goes on until about 73, and then my father more or less eases out of the game show business.
Wow.
I'm getting out of college. I work on a few game shows, meet a few people.
Wow.
Worked very hard. I was the hardest working production assistant. You know, I was there at 8 in the morning. I would leave at 9 o'clock at night. I absolutely loved it. Worked on a show called The Big Showdown. The other person who often worked late was the woman who ran the contestant department, because you'd have to be available in the evening so people could take the test and we'd pick out the best one. So I would help her. She remembered me. People remember one another, right?
Yeah.
And when her boyfriend had been hired by Warner Communications to develop MTV, Nickelodeon, and other things, he was looking for, bright, hard-working young people. So I kind of fit the bill, came in for an interview, and suddenly I'm working for Mike Dan, who had run CBS's programming through the 60s. I mean, they were legendary characters in a big company with an office now on the 30th floor overlooking Central Park, Rockefeller Center. I'm building a staff, I'm hiring people left and right, and I'm making my own game shows. And we're getting coverage in, CBS News, I mean, just everywhere.
Wow.
So this was Cube, QUBE, which was the first massive attempt to get cable television to be a viable business. We created channels, we had subscribers, we had an interactive computer system, so we knew exactly what everybody was watching. This was really the beginning of consumer technology the way we know it today. And it was an extraordinary group of people, because there wasn't a lot happening that was exciting in the television business. We all wanted to get started, we were all young. Producer titles, you could get a producer title, in your 20s, right?
Right.
Which was impossible at the time. Now it's very possible, but then it was, wow, you're a producer. So in building staff, we started experimenting with the medium. We started just having fun in ways that network television typically wouldn't have fun. So, quick example, it was a kids show, and we had a scoreboard, and there were 2 teams, and we would take, we remember this is the era before digital anything, right?
Right.
So it was this cardboard with 2 elephants on it, I think, and it was a scoreboard, so you have a slot, and you'd slot in a 0 or a 1 or a 2 on each side. Well, we were live, and
or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6.
and somebody lost the cards. So it's like, what should I do? I'm like, put your hands through. So here's the way it is. It's 3-2, right? I think it's not set up that way.
Whoa.
And that's what this was. It was just fresh and easy, and we all learned together. Okay, so Cube, I was in charge of developing MTV. I was sort of the first one in that process. Did the first pilot. Trivia. My director was Glenn Gordon Caron, who was a friend from college, good friend, and he goes on to create Medium isn't that awful?
It happened.
Yeah, huge moonlighting.
Yeah.
So it was like real. So it was the place in New York where, if you were lucky, you got to work together. Then we all moved to Columbus, Ohio, which is where we did 6 hours a day of live programming.
Wow.
I started moving into management. And it just was so much fun to start out a completely new experiment in television and see what we could do. And the eyes of the world were upon us, because nobody else was doing that much that was very interesting in television, and we were kind of cool. So, and we had the freedom to experiment. We had the freedom to make mistakes. The stakes were fairly low on a per show basis, right? And the budgets were low, the staffs were small. But we had 500 people working, 300, 500 people working. Wow. There was a lot of people. So, all right. So from there, now I'm a little bent. I'm not going to go back to a traditional straight path, right? So I went through developing the home video business, books on audio, a bunch of things. And one of the areas that interested me, because it was a television screen, was the idea of playing computer games, developing computer games. So I would, every once in a while, I had been writing a newspaper column for the New York Times Syndicate about consumer electronics and personal computing, early days, right? But I did it for about 10, 15 years. And I would routinely go out to Silicon Valley before there were a whole lot of companies there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to the 2 computer stores, right? And they had software that people had written, but it was on cassettes and sold in a baggie on a hang tab rack. Like, and one of those games was Carmen Sandiego. Oregon Trail was there. There were a bunch of very early games. Like, this is really cool. I should mention that I was in charge of interactive games at and game design and all that at Cube, so I knew a lot about games and people knew who I was. So I got in touch with the companies. I started making friends. They, the companies were 4 people. It's not like these were huge companies at the time, right? Later on, they became quite large. And we would just, go out for sushi or whatever. We would just kind of hang out, and I'd stay there a week or 2, and they'd ask me questions about the television industry, and I'd say, yeah, tell me about the software industry. Like, it was just, everything was just sort of possible, right? And the question came up, our Carmen this was Bruder Bund, our Carmen Sandiego property, yeah? We'd love to put it on television. I'm like, you're nobody. This is nothing. This is not, it's used in a few hundred, maybe thousands of schools, but that's a big leap. Well, all right, they humor us. How would you do it if it was possible? So this is about 1987. I'm like, well, the license isn't worth a lot of money. Let's start there. So I would sell it for $1. I would sell it for $1 to WGBH. On the hope that if they had the property, they would do something with it. On the hope that what the property is today might be very different in 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Right. So now that path has been suggested. I forgot about it. I moved on with my life, did other projects. One of the projects was a project called Perception, where we were using digital devices to mess with your visual sense. This was the beginning of computer graphics, so we could distort. And it ended up being a lot of fun, and the people who worked on that show included a production assistant named Greg Lee. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
One of the producers on that show was Jim Jenkins, who created Doug, who also goes back.
Oh my God, Doug! It was awesome, especially PB&JR and JoJo's Circus and Stanley. Those are the 4 childhood shows I ever seen in my life. Continue on.
Back to the Cube years as well. So we're all sort of connected a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the beginning. The other person who will become important in a minute is a woman named then Dorothy Curley, now Dorothy Tecklenburg.
Wow.
So Dorothy was sort of my right hand in a lot of the creative stuff that we did at Cube, and then started doing stuff on her own and becomes a director in Boston and on from there. All right. Now, next piece that I'm laying in place. I hope this is helpful.
It's very helpful. It's fascinating.
It was so much fun. All right. So Dorothy was a really smart science kid, and there was a children's show about science, like a Mr. Wizard kind of a show in Chicago where she grew up. She was one of the TV kids. She was one of the kids who actually appeared on the show and would try to help people, she'd do the experiments and all that.
Right.
And she knew a little bit about relativity and time travel. And we're at a Japanese restaurant. That comes up a lot, seems to come up a lot.
Yes.
And she's explaining time travel to me based upon relativity theory, or general relativity theory, on a napkin. And I look at her and I go, you know what? It would be really cool to create a nonfiction book about time travel, as if it was possible based upon the science that you just explained to me. She's like, cool. And then we started kind of riffing on what that might be. So we're going to make the Federal Time Travel Commission, and you're going to be able to buy time machines in different models, depending on whether you're taking the family or not. We're going to figure out which dinosaurs to feed. And
Wow.
We create this imaginary environment in book form for 10-speed press. And we're working with a third person from Cube, who years ago had been Jim Jenkins' roommate, a guy named Brad Williams, who has since passed. So
Yeah. Wait, who passed again?
Jim Jenkins' roommate, a guy named Brad Williams.
Guy named Brad Williams. Hold on, let me check it out real fast before I continue on. No, I was looking at Diane Brad Williams, not Diane Sawyer, CBS of Good Morning America. Sorry, everyone, I was looking at the wrong Diane. Continue on.
Who has since passed. So Brad is a puppeteer. That's going to become important in a minute, as Jim was in those days.
And isn't it interesting how these pieces
Yeah.
all coming together?
Mm-hmm.
This person to this
And
person.
they continue to, but even decades later. But
Yeah.
So this is where we are, and it is, let's call it late 80s.
Okay.
I'm producing Perception with Jim. I'm doing a few other projects. I'm running around the United States being a spokesperson because I've written a bunch of books, and I'm doing media tours. And in the midst of all this, I'm working on a book called This Business of Television, which turns out to be sort of the big guy, the big business affairs guide with my attorney. It sort of explains the whole business. We're doing it for Billboard Books. And I'm working with a syndicator, trying to understand how the U.S. syndication business works so that I can explain it in the chapter on syndication. And my wife calls me at the restaurant. Now, you have to remember, no cell phones, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
they bring the phone over to the table, which is something that was very like, oh, okay, but I'm thinking somebody's dead, like something bad happened.
Right.
And she's like, you have to call this person. I'm like, okay, where are they? They're WQED in Pittsburgh. I'm like, okay. Another of the Cube people had recommended me because it turned out that in the background, WQED was developing or had developed a children's or family game show about geography. And they had done a pilot. I don't know whether they had done the pilot with WGBH or not, but the two of them gradually began working together because there was a Pew study or something like that, a survey that said that American kids could not name a country to the south of us. It was a very well-published story in 1989 or something. So at the same time, talk about convergence, PBS had never had a head of programming.
Wow.
Jennifer Lawson gets hired as the head of programming. But PBS wasn't a slickly run organization, so she wasn't as practiced on her message points for a press conference as she might be. Very smart, we're friends, really well respected.
Right.
But she said, we really, as the public television operation for the United States, we need to explore every possible format. We don't know what we will become.
Wow.
Really noble, really the right thing to say.
Right.
And I think she tosses off a comment saying, we could even do a game show. Right? So, of course, the press picks up, PBS announces plans for game show. Now she's got to come up with a game show. The only game show that anybody seems to know about is this geography primetime thing, and somewhere in there is the Carmen Sandiego license.
Right.
Because WGBH had made the deal that I had structured 3 years before and forgotten about.
Right.
They did not know that I had anything to do with it, that I knew the Broderbund people or anything like that at all. And I get the call from WQED, because they're the ones who are recruiting. And they say, are you interested in building and then producing this series? And I'm thinking, as soon as I get the phone call, I'm like, this is going to make my career. This is going to be a home run. All of this is flashing in the first 30 seconds of the call. I'm like,
You
yes,
knew it.
absolutely. I knew that I was the guy. I knew what was going to happen. Everything just kind of, the road just laid out in front of me. Your purple road, if that's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. And I get hired. And partially on the basis of Perception, which was the visual perception game show, because they thought it looked pretty cool. And it did, it looked pretty cool. Jim did a wonderful job in art directing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's no show.
Right.
There's a pilot. Oh, well, let me see the pilot. No, you don't want to see the pilot. Come on, let me see the pilot. You don't want to see the pilot. So I look at the pilot and I'm like, wow, this is awful. This is like astonishingly bad. Why did you do, what? And they spent a bunch of money on it, and they knew that that could not be a show. So now they're in a little bit of trouble, which for a producer, incoming, is just the best news, right?
Right.
Because it means they're going to give me more space.
Right.
All right. So day one, Labor Day, day after Labor Day, I'm like, well, I'm being hired by PBS, which I'm taking seriously, right? Because it's an educational television network, to teach students geography. So what's the first thing you do? You open an atlas, right? So I have big National Geographic atlas, and I start, with following coastlines with my finger, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, having been a stamp collector, having loved board games like Pirate and Traveler, which was a map game,
Wow.
I know a lot more about this than most people do, and I'm bored out of my mind. Okay, so day one,
Yeah.
half day, this is not going to work. We're going to have to find some completely different direction. So, thinking it's going to have to be fun and funny. It's going to have to be very kid-oriented. I need to get the idea of education out of my head and then bring it back in a different way.
Yeah.
I need to go start talking to kids. So I just started going out and talking to kids in 2s and 3s and schools and classrooms and all this. In that first year, and let's call it 6 months, I spoke to between 900 and 1,000 kids.
Wow.
Me, myself.
Now, what age group were these kids?
I would say that they were no younger than 9 and probably no older than 12.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's a heck of a chore.
So I called Dorothy. I said, we got a heck of a chore going on here. I need your help. So she's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, we're creating a show. You're going to be a co-creator. Let's go. With full confidence that we could come up with something that would work. So a lot of long days, a lot of late nights. One of my favorites was going to Coliseum Books, which was the best bookstore in Manhattan, or one of the best bookstores in Manhattan, on Columbus Circle, not there anymore. And we were studying film noir. We were looking for picture books about film noir because we wanted to enhance the detective part of this. That was one
Is Carrie okay? Continue on.
part of this. We're beginning to create a mood. We don't really know what that mood looks like yet, but we're beginning to create a mood. So she's starting to play with things related to detective offices, almost like Pyramid, things related to detective offices, just cliches. So she's starting to watch old films. She had been, again, everything's connected. My dad, after concentration, created American Movie Classics, now AMC.
Wow.
He needed a writer to write all of the host material. I recommended Dorothy. She thought she'd do it for 6 months. She did it for 17 years.
Yeah.
So,
Dorothy Gale for the Wizard of Oz. Continue on.
right. So we have all these different intersecting pieces. Okay. Now we got to figure out what's the show. And I figured, well, I'll ask the kids because they'll probably know. So I'm like, what's the show? I said, I know it's a game. I know the Carmen Sandiego thing. Some of you know this. They're like, yeah, but the crooks are terrible. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. The crooks are terrible. We're going to have to invent new crooks. So we'll start inventing new crooks. I'm like, well, tell me what you would like to see. And they're like, well, it would be really funny if we did this. So I start drawing on the blackboard. I can draw a little bit. And I'm like, well, what would you call this? And they'll say, well, if you make his nose bigger, he would be called this. So I'm like just starting to riff on this, right?
Wow.
And we're just starting to build it. And then I'm like, well, we would ask questions. So I said, Dorothy, write some questions that would be sort of visually interesting, that would require the kids to make an A, B, or C decision about the place where something happened. So I remember one of the early ones was a bunch of Florida oranges arguing with each other in animation. And we just started playing with these ideas, and then every time we go to the classrooms, we would add a few more and say, what do you think?
Yeah.
So the kids were so involved in all these discussions, and we didn't really have, we didn't have staff, we didn't have anybody at that point. We're still doing budgets because nothing was ready.
Right.
And I should mention that we started Labor Day. We're recording the first episodes in March.
Wow.
Okay? So there's got to be a full-scale show within 6 months, and the only thing I kept from the pilot was part of the logo. That was it. So there was nothing to start with.
Completely scratched.
Completely from scratch. And there really wasn't a staff because I couldn't get staff hired until I submitted a budget. I couldn't do the budget until I knew what the show was and what the schedule might be. So it was just sort of Dorothy and I at the beginning.
And a bunch of 9 to...
And a bunch of 10-year-olds,
kids,
right,
yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Wow.
So that's kind of how it started.
Wow.
And started gaining confidence, started having, instead of having 1 or 2 examples, we'd have 20 or 30. And we're like, should we write a script? She's like, yeah, but I don't know what the show is. I'm like, all right, let me try writing a script. So I'm at WGBH for meetings, and I would just kind of hang out there because I wanted not to be doing the whole thing in a home office at the beginning. I wanted some interaction with people. And I had a lot of questions about how operational we were going to do this and where, because we didn't know where we were going to produce it either at that point. Could be Pittsburgh, could be Boston, could be somewhere else, including Philadelphia, where Nickelodeon had been producing Double Dare and all of their shows. Okay, so
Yeah, watch this remix for you. Continue on.
now we're in sort of an interesting place. It's now like Thanksgiving, maybe middle of November. We still don't have a show. So I'm like, well, all right, page 1. And the way I typically approach this is I write a format script, which is sort of the prototype script for each of the episodes, and I'm on page 1. And I'm like, don't really know what this is going to be. I have no idea Rockapella exists yet. Okay, that's going to come in a month or 2. So I'm like, well, how does the computer game work? It's like, well, there's a teletype, and it gives you a first clue. I'm like, can't really put a teletype on television. That's really not going to work. So at that point, I'm like, I'm hearing this voice. And the voice was a singer, an actress, who I had seen in Tintypes, an off-Broadway show that went to Broadway briefly. And in an earlier production company, we were trying to buy the rights because we were producing these kinds of shows for Showtime in its early days.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice is Lynn Thigpen.
Yeah.
It was a very distinctive voice, and I felt that she could do it. I knew she could do it. I wrote the part, invented the part of the chief in a small conference room in Boston, all alone, and just started laying out, this is what she sounds like and this is what she'd say. I didn't know who we were going to hire as host, but I figured there's going to be a relationship between whoever this chief character is and someone else. I guess that other person works for her in some way. And we had the detective officer. He's a detective, she's a chief of detectives, I guess. Yeah. Right? So we started playing that with the kids, and they liked the idea. And before long, within fast, so within 3 or 4 days, we had a full script that explained the whole show, except the end game, which we didn't actually except the middle game and the end game. So we really only had the beginning and the kind of mood.
Right.
So at that point, there was enough to budget. I had a sense of what I wanted to do. I knew that the kids at the end would somehow interact with a large map. My original concept was to do sort of a third of a globe and have the kids go into the globe, and it'd be kind of chutes and ladders, 3-dimensional, inside the globe as they connected one country to another. And then as we started getting a little more hardcore, I would say this is end of January, so maybe end of January.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, when I do the math on that, I need a television studio that's bigger than any soundstage because the circle becomes huge because of the size of the body. All right, we got to really think this through. So we're starting to add staff. Ariel Schwartz comes in because the kids wanted cartoons. Now, I don't have the budget to make cartoons, and also, we're going on the air in 2.5 months.
Right, that's what I was wondering, is this the time?
How are we going to do this, right?
Right.
Yeah. How are we doing this? So, I'm like, can we use Macintosh computers and, like, macro media, whatever the authoring, the presentation authoring. Can we use that to make
Yeah, that's what I use nowadays, which is a Mac Mini. Continue on.
animations? He's like, I don't see why not. He said they're not going to be big in fan. We're not making Fantasia here, but yeah, let me figure it out. He figures it out.
Speaking of Fantasia, Fantasia and Fantasia 2000. No, though, if you haven't saw it on Disney, so they just recently got and I wasn't off topic. I was just talking about Fantasia. They're both classical movies from 1940 and 2000, but one came out in 1999. So that's just me. Continue on.
He puts together an animation department in Boston, but he's with me down in New York, Philadelphia area, and he's going to produce the whole show.
Wow.
Including this massively complicated budget, and we're going to find a studio and all that, right? So now I have a little bit of money to work with, and I hired Dana Calderwood, who had produced and directed Double Dare and a few of the other.
Wow.
Dana and I had worked together on Remote Control, which was MTV's first original program.
Yeah. I wonder if Remote Control's video game. And if you watch this, Alex Perez, I highly recommend you check out Remote Control, the video game. If you want to check it out in your gameplay videos, we'll see what happens. Let's see, Remote Control. There is a such thing as MTV's Remote Control for the NES. Okay, if you go ahead and watch this right now, Alex Perez, go ahead and play that game. I highly recommend you check it out. Continue on.
Remember that?
I was sort of the grown-up. I was the one who I sort of pulled the development together and got them through the first week, and then I said, listen, have a great time. This has been fun. I've made my contributions. You guys need to produce this now. So Dana and I became friendly as a result of that. Dana had directed Perception, so we had a few things that we had done before. And I said, you know how to actually put the show into the studio? I've done that a bunch of times, but this is a little bigger, and also kid stuff. He's like, we need Debbie Finkel. Debbie becomes the associate producer.
Okay.
So now we're starting to build a team, which means more work can get done, and we can move a little more quickly. But we still don't have writers, and we're going to start shooting in like 2 months. We haven't hired anybody yet. Dorothy's the only writer, and she can't possibly write the whole series. And she's doing this part-time because she has a life, right?
Right.
So at that point, we start hiring. We put a writer's test together, and we just sort of very broadly say, hey, if you think you can write for television, take the test.
Yeah.
So we hired 3 or 4 writers, a researcher, and a few other people. But now we're starting to get onto the production calendar.
Yeah.
So Jim Fenhagen comes in. Jim had via Dana had designed the Nickelodeon game shows. This is a much bigger project, but as soon as he comes in, the visual part of the show, the detective office, the color palette, the maps, we'll talk about that in a second, all it's together. Our first conversation, I don't know whether I was clear or he was visionary, or we joke about it, but it all, we got it. We know what we want to do. And he just started doing sketches. More or less the first set of sketches was absolutely spot on. We made a few changes for budget, and we started building it.
Wow.
Now, you need time to build it, so we're on that now. The end game is still a problem, because I don't know what to do on the broad thing, but when I was going to schools through the fall, one of the schools had a map of the United States painted on the playground. So I stood there with Dorothy and 20 kids, and I said, let's play a game. And they're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do. Run from here to here. Let's see what happens. All right. Can you run from here to here? Can you do it upside down? Can you do it carrying something? It's like a Dr. Seuss novel.
Right.
Wow.
So I'm like, this is fun. The kids are like, yeah, this is fun. I'm like, I don't really know how this game works exactly, but I think this is the game. So let's start talking about building 7 continents. That then tells us how big the studio has to be, because Asia is big.
Right.
Asia goes all the way through the Middle East. So this is a gigantic map. And the spaces have to be big enough for a 10-year-old or 12-year-old's foot. right? So
Wow.
it has to be big, but it has to be small. But because of camera and because of kid's point of view, the kid is going to run the map upside down, because otherwise the viewers are seeing the map upside down. And somehow, magically, when the kid puts a thing down on a piece of wood, it's going to light up. And it's like, well, okay, how are we going to do that? And how are we going to do it, like, and it be mobile with no wires so the kids don't trip over? It's like,
Right.
Wow.
Dana and I are like, and Dorothy were like, this got to be, and Ariel and Debbie, we're all in this. Now, we still don't have a host. We have not, Lynn has not said yes. In fact, she's been saying the opposite of yes.
So
Over
when did you start the process with her?
Yeah, we actually did a lot of casting, and I kept saying, yeah, but I want Lynn. We maybe looked at 100 people, and I kept looking at Debbie, who was doing the casting, and I'm saying, this is great, I still want Lynn. So, Greg was one of two.
Wow.
Culled that down. Debbie, God bless her, interviewed between 400 and 500 candidates in the middle of this utter chaos of trying to launch the show. So she did all that in January, something like that, maybe by mid-February. Okay. So now we've got it down to either Greg, who was funny and smart, or this other guy who was smart and we weren't sure if he could be funny.
And those were elements that were important.
Yeah, and I didn't know how important funny would be, because it's still early, and I'm still got this geography PBS thing in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're writing, and now there's a full staff. In fact, the staff is large enough that, because we had to have office space where we could practice the end game, so that became our big kind of work space during the day, and it was 30 feet wide or something. So I remember this gigantic circle we would all sit in, with maybe 25 or 30 people in the circle. That was the staff. It had grown that large. And this is not the animation department, not this, not that, right? It's just
Right.
Wow.
and we all kind of made a lot of decisions together. It became really collaborative, which is why I ultimately made the decision to pick Greg.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Greg, I want Lynn.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I think I want her too. But she's saying no. I'm like, all right, so here's the plan. Bagels and lox, Sunday morning, just you, me, whatever. And we won't let her leave the room unless she says yes, right? It's like one of those, just like, let's just have fun with this.
Right.
And she said yes, ultimately. So we got her.
And do you have any idea why she originally...
Oh, she knew exactly what this was going to be about, and she was absolutely right with all the reasons that she shouldn't have done it. Experienced performer, crazy show, taking on way too much. They've never done it before.
Right.
It's going to be utter chaos, all of that, right? And it was. All right. Now we need the music. So I'm getting pushed to do this, kind of new, cool rap music. I'm like,
which am I straight in?
I need something that isn't just what's happening right now, because the whole show is sort of a timeless feeling, and I don't want to get myself. We can do some rap, we can do some hip hop, but I also want a vocal group, because there's vocal traditions all over the world, and we wouldn't have to buy instruments. That's interesting. Dorothy comes over on New Year's Day just for a visit. She lives on the other, she lives a few hundred miles away, and she brings a Spike Lee Laserdisc called Do It Acapella. And there are a bunch of acapella groups. And my kids were little, and she thought it'd be fun to watch the little kids dance to the music. That was all. No thought of anything.
Wow.
We're watching, and there is this group in serious leather jackets and chains. Or at least that's the way I remember it.
Yeah.
And they're singing Zombie Jamboree, which was it was one of Rockapella's signature songs. But we weren't sure whether they were going to be impossible to work with. Like, we didn't know what we were looking at. But the thought of having them on the show didn't occur to me at all. But my wife comes in. We're making cheesesteaks. The kitchen has tomato sauce hanging from the walls. It is a complete mess. And we're all laughing about how messy this lunch turned out to be. So I've got like this sandwich in my mouth, and I'm like, all that. And we're all laughing at just how messy we all are, how messy the house has become. And my wife says, they'd be good for the show. I'm like, yeah. So I called Dana, I think it was even New Year's Day, I'm like, I have a job for you, find them. But if they end up being like roughnecks, or whatever the word is, I don't want to expose the staff to it. So find a way to have the conversation without putting yourself in jeopardy. I didn't know what we were
Exactly.
Right.
So he sets up the interview. I'm very nervous. I'm not going. It's only Dana in the room, right? I figure, well, if I have to sacrifice one person, I'll sacrifice Dana. so it's become this ongoing joke. And he bangs on my office door, and he says, they're from Brown University. 2 or 3 of them are Jewish. They're intellectuals. Wow. It's okay. I'm like, okay, good. All right. So it's like, we can work with them. No, they turned out in their own special way to be, by their own admission, extraordinarily difficult because they were perfectionists. But immediately, it made sense. Immediately, Sean and David Yazbek, who is his old friend, are writing a theme song. I wanted was originally called the Ballad of Carmen Sandiego. We wanted internal rhymes, we wanted funny rhymes at places where, like, I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how it would work. Sean did.
Yeah.
David did. A few days later, they deliver the song. We're all looking at each other. I'm like, is that, because that's not really what I had in mind. The staff is like, it's fabulous, shut up. I'm like, yeah, you're right, it's fabulous, shut up, I'll shut up.
I was curious about that because I can't stop singing that song. I mean,
yeah.
It's so infectious.
Yeah. Well, David since has written, the Broadway musical Tootsie and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and the band's Visit he has, I think, a Tony for. So this is a serious song. But at the time, as Sean has since told me, I'd never really done that before. I'm like, I don't want to know that. So the music needs to come together quickly. Everything now is at an accelerated pace. We spend a day, me, Rockapella, Dorothy, and I go, let's top a show, because now we have a real script. Like, opening theme. Do you want to steal some of the stuff from the beginning? So the 4 of them are sitting at my conference table in my office, and they go, how about this? I'm like, too long, and can you take it up a register at the end, because I need to build some excitement? And we are composing the music based upon their pieces and parts together in one afternoon. Now,
wow.
I'm not doing much heavy lifting, but Dorothy's like, you know exactly what you want and you know how it should sound. I'm like, yeah, we're all kind of in this now, right? So that was the beginning of it, without going into, every single detail. And I'm sure I left out, a lot of people. Costumes, for example, animation department. We had so many different pieces and parts. There were, by my count, between 125, 150 people working on the show. We were a really big show.
Wow.
And we end up initially in Manhattan, and then the following years we ended up at Kaufman Astoria Studios, where Sesame Street and Cosby were done.
Wow.
So it was a marvelous experience, and it was a big mess because it was very difficult to get the tone of the scripts, because remember, we're still dealing with politically correct, accurate information about places in Africa, but there's no internet yet, so we're really relying upon our own ability to do research. The next year it was National Geographic, who hired freelancers to use their library, but nobody really ever done this kind of massive, push into teaching geography. There was the school curriculum had fallen apart, so we were really on our own about what we ought to teach and how we taught it and all that, but I kept, by then a 10-year-old was living inside my head going, that's not fun. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. It's too long, So I would sit in the back of the van as we make our way from Queens back into Manhattan the second year, and I would just be rewriting as we go. We were writing constantly. Rewrite. Great writing staff, Paul Smith and James Stifel and Charles Nordlander, who took over as head writer. And everybody had a little bit of experience, but nobody had a lot. We just kind of did it, which was going back to the Cube days. So much of this is just do it. The other cool part was the crew, because it quickly became clear that I was very open to ideas from everybody. I just wanted the best stuff. So it wasn't unusual for a camera operator to go, you know what, there's a better way to do this, which is pretty unusual in the television
I was going to say, it's very unusual.
Yeah. But that sense of connectedness and that sense of openness and that sense of, listen, we're all doing the show together. We want to do the best show we can. Let's figure out a way to, just keep it fun and light and all that. Really kept us all, entertained, but it's also what gave us the Peabody Award. It's also what gave us the Emmy Awards. It's also what, all those pieces came together, in a really delightful way. And then, you have your own little internal squabbles and all that, because every show does. But the other person who's in the midst of this, and one story just, I don't want to fail to mention, is in addition to this enormous complexity, we are bringing 250 screaming kids in while we're trying to work.
Right.
Okay? So that's a really important, or screaming kids. And this happened to be the time when Europe decided to fall apart. So all of a sudden, there's no more Yugoslavia. Now, that sounds like a minor thing, unless you're Laura Brock, who is the art director assigned to the show by Jim Fenhagen. And in order to build an effective map, you can't have any two countries next to each other the same color. But if you change something in a map of Europe, you don't change two colors, you change 28 countries.
Wow.
And the next day, if another country declares independence, you have to paint the map again.
Wow.
So that was the environment we were working in. Everything was changing, and political correctness, and by the way, we have a whole celebrity department, because now we have celebrities reading clues, and we're developing this sort of our own inside humor that we kind of gotten a little bit from time travel and a little bit from MTV and remote control, but also a group of writers who are really pushing on their own, right? And we're really trying to figure out what all this looks like. So it was just all of this stuff together, all happening at exactly the same time in a very short period, because by the end of May, so I was hired Labor Day, by the end of May, all the shows are in the can ready to be edited.
Wow.
Okay? That's the thing that's like, and I think we won we won the Peabody for that first season.
Wow.
Wow.
So as much as Lynn Thigpen, bless her heart and soul, was was reluctant. She had every reason to be reluctant, because this was just bumper cars, in
like
7 dimensions at the same time, right? But it was fun. Mission accomplished. It's a few years later, and you actually want to talk about this. That's good, and a lot of long friendships as a result, and future projects too.
It was a huge hit, and putting all those things together, it's just incredible hearing the story.
Wow.
You had talked about with Lynn Thigpen, the music, the game show, the kids. It's pretty incredible.
It was fun.
And wildly successful.
It was fun. I mean, it was also the season where we were in hotels in New York. It was costing way too much money, but the idea of having clean clothes, or even sending a production assistant out for clothes, right? Like, not a possibility. So my wife had to drive from pretty far away to just give me clean clothes, and occasionally see my kids. Like, it was like, we were hostages. We were like, we were Acme Crime Net hostages for months, and we would laugh about it because we ate every meal together. We were there from 8 until midnight, 7 days a week. But that's how you do it, right? That's how you build that camaraderie. Yeah. That's how you do all that.
Yeah.
And all of us remember it mostly fondly, actually. Yeah. Somewhere in there also is Howard Lee, who was hired, I think, as a production assistant and then associate producer, and now runs TLC. He was the guy who, like, no matter what the impossible task Ariel cooked up, Ariel would be like, "Could you bring the Empire State Building here just for an hour?" And Howard like, "Yeah, I'm on it right away. I'm on it now," right? Like, just the most, like, you and send him out to do what, and then he would deliver. It was just like so funny, all of this. Like, we spent the whole day laughing, and then we were frustrated because of whatever production frustrations, right?
When did you know it came together? Was it right before?
I can tell you exactly how. John, who was a really top-notch camera operator, who I had a little bit of history with from another adventure. John was remembered by Stephen Colbert because he was Stephen Colbert's camera. So when Stephen would talk to the audience, it was talking through John. Very trusted, very dear guy. He grabs me one day, kind of a sweet uncle character, and says, "Do you understand what you've done here?" I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm not really. Everybody else is exhausted. And he said, "This is one of the best television shows I have ever seen." I'm like, "You work on a lot, and certainly one of the best I've ever worked on, and the best working environment too." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks. I gotta go work." Like I didn't, but that was he's like, "The crew is crazy about this. They think you're doing something really special, and they're really thrilled to be a part of it." I'm like, "I'm happy to be a part of it too. I gotta go. I gotta work hard." Like we were just going so fast. But that was the moment where I went, "I wonder if he's right." Now I don't have time to think about it. Right? And you toss it off. But that reflecting, yeah.
Well, he was right, because it just an amazing show, absolute amazing show. I want to talk, well, I've still got you here, about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Because I think it's an amazing project, Kids on Earth, that you're working on now.
So here's what happened. The fun of working on Carmen Sandiego was we were presenting the world to kids. It was really the beginning of any kind of global education. Certainly first on television in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. But we couldn't go anywhere. That's not what the show was. That's not what the budget allowed. The big trip was any place in North America the kid could go. Right. So it wasn't, we weren't attached to the world the way I wanted to. In that first year in particular, when I built the Chief's slideshows, which you would make fun of.
Sure.
Pictures, I would just look at all of these slides in a photo house. You'd rent. We made a deal where we would take 1,000 photos, and use them on TV for a fee. And I wanted to go. I wanted to take the kids there. There was no way to do it. There's no internet. There's a little bit of travel documentaries. Maybe there's a travel channel at that point. I'm not sure it was on yet, but it's just not much. So it stayed with me, right? So now I had run a nonprofit for 12 years. I'd run New Jersey Net, where I'd done a whole lot of executive stuff. And then I realized I'm not going to do that anymore, and I don't have that many more years that I'm going to be working. What do I really want to do? It's like, I really want to work with kids, and I really want to go around the world. It's like, all right, well, that's an answer. Good, thanks. So what am I going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Because I could also do a kids news service. I think I want to work with kids again. I hadn't worked with kids in over 20 years. And I started going to schools, saying, what should I do? Do you want me to make a video game? Do you want me to make a cartoon series? I called Jim Jenkins. I said, do you want to do an animated series? What do you want to do? Because we've got the credentials now. Yeah. People at least meet with us. They may say no, but they'll meet with us. And the kids are saying, we really don't want to see all of that fancy stuff. We really just want to kind of get to know kids in other countries.
Yeah.
But that's not like a production. That's not really what I do. What? And they're like, no, just authenticity. They're using words like that. I'm like, yeah. Okay, let me try to wrap my head around that. A friend says, come to Africa. He had been running a nonprofit in Brooklyn, and he had an outpost in Kampala, Uganda. He said, I will give you access to schools. I'll give you an associate producer. I'll give you everything you need. Figure out your project. I'm like, I don't even know if this is a project. Doesn't have a name, doesn't have anything. He's like, go. Kid, worst thing that'll happen is you get, a bad mosquito bite and you'll lose your life. But if that doesn't happen, it's going to be good. Right. So I'll give you a mosquito net. It's fine. So they cooked for me. They took good care of me. First school, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and the kids are laughing, and I'm laughing. And
you had no idea at all?
No, none. I mean, just none, right? And then I started talking to one kid. I'm like, so you're 14 years old? Tell me what you know about the United States. He's like, California. I'm like, movies? He's like, what? I'm like, he said, irrigation. I'm like, okay, you're learning in school. Okay, I got it. I said, what do you want to do? He said, I want to be a surgeon. I'm like, okay, at 14 years old, I'm not sure I knew what a surgeon was exactly. You want to be a surgeon? Can you be a surgeon in Uganda? He said, well, I can't learn to be a surgeon in Uganda because I'd have to go to the United States or the UK. The problem is that the hospitals in Uganda aren't very good, so I have to build a hospital in order to be a surgeon. And I have to learn how to do that. So I'm going to have to go away for 5 or 10 years. And then, so I'm like, you have a plan, quite a plan there, a 14-year-old, right? And I'm kind of being nice, but I'm like, right, crazy, right? And then I realized that every other kid is also talking this way. And then I went to Hong Kong from there because I was afraid that, never having been to Africa, I was afraid of the food in my tummy. And I thought, I don't really want to go through Mumbai, where I'd never been. If I'm going to need a hospital, I'd rather be in a hospital in Hong Kong. I go to Hong Kong, I'm fine. I fall completely in love with Hong Kong. I manage, starting with absolutely nothing, to get a camera because I have no crew. I book kids out of nowhere. It's in August, and the kids only want to know about the kids in Uganda.
Wow.
I'm like, why do you want to know this? You just look on the internet. They're like, no, not the way you're doing. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, you're talking one-on-one to us and asking real questions. You actually care.
Wow.
I'm like, ask us questions about Hong Kong, and then you can show it to kids in other countries. I'm like, okay, sure. And then I did nothing for 3 months because I don't really know how to edit. I'm really more of an executive and a writer and producer. And like the idea of equipment was like, I don't know if I can do this at all. But I gradually learn. I start editing these interviews into smaller pieces. And I go to the Global Children's Media Summit, sponsored by the BBC in Manchester, England. And I figure, well, if I'm going and I'm supposed to speak, I ended up not speaking, I should go to a school. So I'm contacting the Visitors Bureau for Manchester. I'm like, could I come into a school? I know you don't know me and I don't really have a project yet and the project doesn't have a name, but could I do that? Would that be all right? Can just like you give me your kids for a day? And one of them says, you're completely crazy, but my kid is at a school and I kind of like you, so maybe you can come to his school. So I'm like, bless you. So that's how it starts. I do the interviews and suddenly I'm being interviewed myself about this New Kids on Earth project. Fast forward, Slovenia, Bulgaria,
Wow.
Brazil twice, Paraguay, indigenous people in Paraguay, city people in Paraguay. It goes on and on and on. There are almost 1,000 edited interview pieces, hundreds of kids.
Wow. If you heard the train in the background, just ignore it. Continue on.
From all over the place. So that is like, this is really kind of fascinating. But they're not telling me so much about their dog or other common stuff. They're talking about they want to be a pharmacologist because of the coal dust disease in their dad's lungs. Their dad is dying and something needs to be done, and it's going to be our generation who does it. And they're talking about climate change and how the current adult generation doesn't seem to know what to do. And I'm like, this is pretty interesting. I sign up with the University of Pennsylvania as now a senior scholar, and I start looking at human progress through the eyes of the people who live in the 21st century. And all of a sudden, all of this research, which started out just as my little I want to travel around the world, becomes unique and interesting, and I'm writing scholarly articles about it, I'm being interviewed about it, and it's a thing that then leads to speeches at universities. So now I'm at top universities with 200, 300 people in the audience, and I'm talking about what I've learned about how kids grow up in the 21st century.
Wow.
And I can tell that what I'm saying, even the best professors don't know. Because I've been studying population migration patterns and how we go to 9 and 10 billion people on Earth, and most of them will not live in Europe or North America, they'll live in Africa, which means that the largest cities and metropolitan areas on Earth will be in Africa and South Asia, which means those will be the consumer markets, which turns everything upside down.
Wow.
Now, that becomes like, we really ought to be teaching that. That's really important. Every adult should know that. Every kid probably should be learning it. The pivot then is to, we end up with a virus, overall, so everybody stops and we'll travel.
COVID-19.
Like, I don't understand how kids and school really works. I've been in schools all over the world. I've spent time with teachers all over the world. I want to get to the center of this. I want to start interviewing the top people around the world in the education industry and ask them questions about how it works and why it works the way it does. So we're now 20, almost 25 episodes, in hour-long episodes. Next week I have 2 or 3 state secretaries of education who are on the show with me, and I get to pretty much do an Ask Me Anything, I ask them anything. So I'm becoming, in my own way, sort of an expert in this, and I really have all of these crazy adventures to thank for that. Along the way there's an adventure with puppets and a big project and a bunch of other books and all that stuff, but my heart and soul now and what I'm doing when I wake up is I get really excited because I'm going to be writing about the emergence of agency in 21st century childhood. And I'm so excited I can't tell you. So I don't know what that means.
The whole thing is just absolutely fascinating. Listening to this, it's such a fascinating journey you've been on and continue to go on. And I guess I think there's so many lessons listening to you and listening to these stories. I guess the openness to trust. It seems like you trusted your gut a lot in this.
Self-confidence, probably from growing up in the business.
And I think it's fascinating going to the kids.
Yeah.
In the early days and then going again. And it seems like they, in a lot of ways, you listened to them and was allowed to take you in these directions. Where did that come from? Where did it come from, I'm going to go to kids?
I think it was, if I'm making a television show for kids, I probably should talk to them. I don't
but I don't think, I've been in this industry and I've talked to a lot.
Yeah.
That's not something people have done.
I can't imagine why not, right? It just seems to me like if you're going to make a show and I walk into a classroom and I say, listen, I have $3.5 million to spend this year to make something that you guys are going to watch. What do you want to watch? And maybe nobody's ever asked us that question. That may be, but I'm asking you the question now. I'm going to spend this money. I'd rather not spend it stupidly. You're a kid. I'm not. Help me. And they did. Like I said, it doesn't go deep in that.
And listening to you, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But once again, I just don't see people that have done that. And you didn't do it once, but you've done it a second time, and I think that's just fascinating.
I'm doing it
exactly.
with kids on Earth. I'm like, so how does it work? What is the future of the world? I don't know. Why don't we ask people who are going to be living it rather than people who made it up and screwed it up? But I don't think the answer to taming climate change is going to come from a 50-year-old. I think it's going to come from an 11-year-old. We've seen Greta Thunberg, right? I think it's going to be that energy that does this because this is just exhausting. We need the next generation doing it. I think, 16-year-olds should vote. I think that we want to give these people more rights and responsibilities and let them learn as individuals, not according to such a strict curriculum. These are the doors that are opening for me now.
And speaking of that, they should come up with where the Carmen San Diego video game. Where's that? Continue on.
Because I'm seeing that there's a lot more going on here with 21st century kids.
Wow.
They're really different from the kids who I played with during Carmen. But if there's a common theme, it's hey, all of this is play. I'm really not doing anything I wasn't doing when I was 12. I just decided not to stop doing it, right?
Yeah, but I think the other theme is that you listen to them, right? Adults usually don't listen to kids. And I
Why
think,
not?
that
seems ridiculous.
I agree with you 100%, but I think that's where a lot of this success came.
I think it's you listen and then you surround yourself with people who laugh a lot, who are off the charts talented, who are very willing to work together and take chances together. And there's a lot of cliches about working as a team, but everybody had each other's back. Everybody knew what we were doing, knew the playbook, wanted to advance it in the same direction, and added to it. So it became better and better and better. And that's the kind of work environment where I want to be.
Wow.
And unfortunately, not every work environment is like that, but this was an opportunity to invent it from scratch. And because we were berserk with the amount of work and the amount of, takeout food that we were ingesting and the ridiculous schedule and how is this ever going to come together this quickly and please nobody get a cold. Like all of those things were like, this just like, it's a dreamscape. It's not real life. I mean, I would be inventing parts of the middle game while I was sleeping. And I wouldn't write it down. Just in the morning, I'm like, so what'd you do last night? I don't know. We stayed up until about midnight because we had all these production meetings or whatever. And I was in the studio or I was in the office by 8. It's like, well, did you do anything in between? I'm like, yeah, I invented the middle game. Because it just never shut down, right? It was just this constant being in this space and in the moment and flow and all of those things. And, it could easily have turned into complete insanity. We just happened to have the right group of people who, were able to hold each other up and, and just keep doing it. It's not as if, we didn't have our problems along the way, but,
Sure.
but when I look back, it's like, yeah, I remember some of them, but, some of them were fairly entertaining because they were so dramatic and crazy, but it didn't matter. Like we got there, and just about all of us ended up friends on the other side, which is kind of great too. So there was a battle, there was a foxhole mentality in there too.
Wow.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, and I've been sucked up and enjoyed every moment of this.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I love the show, and I love what you've continued to do. You're making a difference in kids' worlds, and I think that's just amazing.
Well, they're making a huge difference for me. And, as I say, we're all kind of playing and trying to figure it out together. So, it's really just been a lot of fun. I feel very fortunate to have been able to do this and to talk about it and that anybody cares about this at all. This was, most of what I talked about happened in 1990, right? I mean, how long ago? It's 30 years ago. And it's still fresh for me, and it's fun to, to kind of, remember all the people and what we all did together.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, kids mean the world to me too, and I didn't learn that until I got into the entertainment world with kids. And it's funny you said authenticity at one point, and they really are. The kids can see right through all that cheesiness and all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so it's meant a lot to me, and it was obvious looking at your career that they meant a lot to you, and now hearing this story, it just and I can't stop singing the song.
Yeah.
And I love the show, and it's really cool what you've done, and I appreciate you coming on.
What we've all done. So, there is that. Nobody's doing this alone by any measure. This is always a big group activity, and sometimes the group actually does something good. Sometimes we don't. But yeah, I mean, just to have all of these people in my life and to have actually had these experiences, like, wow, that really happened. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And
My
thank you for telling the story. Thank you for watching Purple Roads. We'll see you next week. And remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your purple road. We'll see you next week.
So that was Purple Roads. Oh, and somehow say vimeo.com/kids on the earth. Okay, let me turn that down. So that was Purple Roads, episode 45. Howard Benville. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far this episode, went to be a success. Anyways, guys, double episode for LJPCBM Reacts, episode number 561. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one, which is going to be episode 46. I know that Carrie's going to be able to do a Purple Roads podcast, special Halloween episode on Halloween, at around 9 a.m. in the morning, but it's time, but I'm not going to be able to attend because I have to attend a bowling game that day. But if you watch this, Carrie, I'm sorry, but I have to react to it that same day. But that's just me. Till next time, this was Joseph. Goodbye. Peace out, baby. Get word to be guys very soon. till then, JPC out. See ya. Click on my stop recording thing and we'll be on. There we go. We got it. Carrie Sisson, you're watching Purple Roads. And, yeah. Save as. It may take me a while. 50.5. Let's see, exploring time. I'll be right back. Welcome back to 2020 day number 302. I am so sorry for a huge delay. I'm exporting project right now. Plus, I spoke to Kane today about what happens next. Come on. Thank you. No. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Where are we? Now for this full review episode, I'll be done, you know? Come on. No. Thank you. Okay, full review. Where are we here? It's ready. Wait. No conversation with Kane. Oh, my dare spray. Come on, really? Hang on.
Chugga, 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 chugga. Okay, Thomas, we're almost there. Oh no, Percy's in the way. Die, Percy, die! That must be my friends! Hey guys!
Hey, Junior!
Am I ready to play toys today?
Oh, dude, I'm always ready to
I
play
have so many toys of Thomas that I'm Percy.
Yeah.
Cody. Cody.
Yeah? What?
Why is Ken in your shirt?
Oh, well, Ken said he wanted to get in my pants, but that's later.
Dude, why would you even bring Ken? He's a doll!
He's not a doll, Joseph. He's a lawyer, astronaut, doctor, scientist for the
Calm down, Cody.
What?
Ken is a doll.
Not a doll.
Just sign the planet.
Junior, don't start this shit.
I have toys to play with, guys. Come on, I have so many trains. Come on, guys. Come on.
Junior.
All right, guys. Are y'all ready to play trains?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so ready. I'm gonna be going.
Ooh, I'll be the green one. I want to be the big black one.
Well, actually, you can't be that one. You can't be that
Junior,
one.
come on, Junior.
You can't be any of them.
Why?
Because they're mine.
Oh, my God. You do this every time. Why did you even invite us?
Well, because I wanted y'all to look at them. Look.
If we wanted to look at toys, we would have went to Toys R Us, dude. Exactly.
Well, I'm not at Toys R Us.
We don't care, man. We just want to play toys.
Fine, y'all can play with one of them. Okay, you can be, this one.
I don't want to be the cold train, Junior.
But it's the coolest. It's the coolest train ever.
I mean, he does have a point.
And you get to be,
Give me something cool, dude. Come on. What are you even?
you get to be a track piece.
What? Track piece, dude.
The track
What can you do with a track piece?
Track pieces
We
are
don't
cool.
even play with
The
them.
track pieces are cool as piece. Look, it.
Oh, really cool, dude.
So, don't have toys, and I'll be right back.
Oh, we won't touch your toys. We will not. Yeah, get Thomas, dude.
And I'll be.
Oh, man, I love the smell of progressive soup. It smells so delicious.
Chef Baby, what do you want? My friends are over.
Junior, you left the stupid go in the kitchen. I need to cook.
I didn't leave this in the kitchen. The tooth fairy.
The tooth fairy. The tooth fairy. Okay, the tooth fairy leaves toys in the kitchen. I thought they liked teeth.
Well, I didn't have a tooth to give the tooth fairy, so she took my toy.
Whatever, Junior. Just get out of my way. I'm trying to cook.
What are you cooking?
Oh, I'm cooking progressive soup. And I tried a new ingredient, and I know it smells delicious, right? You want to try something?
It smells like blood.
No, it doesn't. Junior, just listen. I tried a new ingredient. I need you to taste test it for me, okay? Just come on.
Okay.
Come on. Now, how is it? Damn it, Junior, why don't you even cook it? It tastes like blood. It's not my fault, then. Ingredients, man. The new ingredient, and I know it smells delicious, right? You wanna try something?
It smells like blood.
No, it doesn't. Junior, just listen. I tried the new ingredient. I need you to taste test it for me, okay?
Just
Come on.
okay.
Come on. Now, how is it? Damn it, Junior, why don't you even cook it? It's not my fault, then.
Just
Come on.
okay.
Come on. Now, how is it? Damn it, Junior, why don't you even cook it? It tastes like blood. It's not my fault, then. Ingredients, man, dude, this is way funner with that.
Guys,
What's up, dude?
were y'all playing with my toys?
No, not at all. No. So, Junior, what was all the hoop about that? Yeah.
Oh, Chef Baby's making butt soup.
Yeah.
It tasted like pure butt. And he made me taste it.
Who would taste butt soup?
Well, if you wanted me to taste test it to tell if it was good or not.
So, Junior, you know when that's gonna be done?
What?
Look, the stupid go in the kitchen.
With my toy.
My father! Just come on.
Okay.
Come on. Now, how is it? Damn it, Junior, why don't you even cook it? It tastes like blood. It's not my father! Ingredients.
Anyway, moving on. Next. Got Whoa. Stop. Hold on. Wait, food reviews episode 211. Check. Where are we? Man. Oh no, hang on. Speaking of which, where are we? Okay, I don't want to do a camera via my iPad, because if I do it via camera via iPad, that won't work. So, let's just eat the food anyway. Screw it. I'm done. Tastes like butt.
Just come on. Okay, come on. Now how is it? It tastes like butt. It's not my fault, man. Ingredients, man, this is the way.
Oh, God, help me. God. Hello, guys. This is Jerry speaking. Welcome to Food Reviews, episode number 211. And today we're having some chicken thingy, whatever you call it. And I think I don't call what this thing called, but I think we're gonna call it this chicken soup, but we're gonna call it anyway. And then the most exciting thing of all is Cheetos macaroni and cheese. So let's eat them now and see what we got, shall we? See what we got. Tastes like noodles in here. I think we'll have a noodle party in Food Reviews, episode 211. Then the beast of them all. Cheetos mac and cheese. Mmm. Tastes good. Mm. I'm giving this food a 10 out of 10 overall. Now we'll have some food reviews, episode number 211. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one. It's going to be Vivid October, day number 27, 2020 edition. Excuse me. Till next time, Sue Jefferson, goodbye, peace out, baby. Get more videos, guys, very soon. Till then, Jefferson out. See ya. Episode number I'll be right back. I'm back, folks. Get ready to make a final product, the food review episode. Once you get done, then chicken and raw. Actually, before I do that, let me edit this real quick and call it for the rest of the day. I'm just gonna get this ready to go. I'm not gonna call it. Let's see. You're back. But anyway. Let's see if I have a room for that. If I have a correct tile. Okay, that's good. We'll just call it tonight's 2-in-1 dinner or something like that. I don't know. I'll be right back. Back, folks. I'm getting ready to make Vivid October day number 27, 2020 edition, and we're gonna be done for the rest of the day. So be prepared for that. So anyway, let's go ahead and copy what it's supposed to be copied, and yeah. Yeah. Right there. Nah, 212 had to do with something. Okay, food. Okay, weekends are a quiet day. A quiet day to a busy night. Anyway, we're gonna do one more video and we'll be done. Or two, something like that, I can't remember. 29. There. Hello guys, this is Jerry speaking. Welcome to Vivid October, day number 27, 2020 edition. And today, I just recently came back from making 2 projects today and taught my boss. And I spoke to Kane today, so yeah, it's a very, very, very short call for Kane. And I did, however, spoke to Remix about it. He said to me that some situation won't be able to talk about today. So that was a very short amount of day, so it was very quiet, but it's also a very busiest night tonight. I did 1 LJ React today, 1 of a full review today. And what's coming up on my schedule and my plate today? Well, 2 brand new episodes of Recess Jokes, so be on the lookout for that. So yeah, I'm done for the rest of the day with projects. So yeah, it will be huge for me. So yeah, if I'm looking forward to do these things, then that's fine. Right now I have the box to be able to do for the rest of the day, especially the that, and that way more easier. Let's see here, box video. That's 43. Okay. That's good. That's something I can do for the rest of the day. So, if I spend the rest of the day doing nothing, that would be boring. You know, that's just me. So there you go. And, that's something I can do with my LJPCBM schedule. So that's just me. So yeah, I have nothing else to do for the rest of the day. Plus I have box to be able to do for the rest of the day. So, for Thursday and Friday, Thursday and everything, so there you go. So, it provides me a lot of fun for shopping and for Amazon. So there you go. Redeem my gift card. I'm not gonna spend that much money because even though it's saveless, you know, that's just me. So yeah, it's gonna be huge. But you know, today's been quiet for me, but it's been busiest for 2 projects. One, I'll upload 2 of them right after this video is over, so be on the lookout for that. But anyways, guys, that was the video in October, day number 27, 2020 edition. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one. It's gonna be video in October, day 28, 2020 edition. The next one we're doing on Air Archive is Reese's Jokes episode 41 because I don't know how to expect to make this on YouTube because of copyright. Until next time, Lou Jarvis, goodbye, peace out, baby. Get more videos, guys, very soon. Till then, Jump State out. See ya. Okay. Now what we need to do now is just save this as 27. There.
So I'm gonna move this remote so I can get closer to you.
Okay. Okay, 39 seconds since him and Charlie is live, so I'm gonna go ahead and edit this real quick, and I'm gonna wrap things up because I don't think it'll be necessary to wrap things up in a harsh way. So there you go. So anyway, let's go ahead. Close up my. Not my Facebook group, but that's just me. But anyway, there we go. Production assistance will be fixed any moment now. Ryan Boyd and there we go. Got it. And there. I'm all done with this video. And yeah. So yeah, I just got done with this project, these rest of the projects, the rest of the day. So yeah, I'm all done with that. I can't do Disney Plus today, so yeah, it's gonna be huge. I have one more thing left before I end this video, which is Reese's Jokes episode 41. I can't be able to edit the rest of the whole jokes video for the rest of the day, so it may be a problem, but you know, that's just me. And that's the case, you know, that's just me. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and see what's going on. Reese's episode. I'm gonna go ahead and do a little pitch thing. '96. And what I'm gonna do is add in the parts. Okay, 41. No, not 42. 41. That's where I'm at. Yeah. Okay, we're in the Reese's episode called. We're gonna have another one for tomorrow, so stand by. I can't download until I figure out what's going on next. You know, that's just me. But anyway, 41 is called Shot in the Dark Music Video. Genie, Miss Genie will. And all you have to do now is complete the project. So, let's see what Reese's Jokes episode I'm on. Okay, there we go. The spy who came in from the playground. Came in from the playground. Okay, that episode is wrong. From came in from the playground. Oh, I see. This is the wrong one. Okay, 41. Okay, Reese's Jokes is next. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off here because I think okay, this is going to be a least amount of downloads next. So let's see. Library Kid is season 3. Once I get done with that, then recess. No, okay. You know what I mean? Recess. Come on, recess. Thank you. I don't want to see some nudity. That's nasty. No! No more. Thank you. Okay. Now let's see this episode. No more of this. Oh, come on. Really? Thank you. I want to see no more of that. Okay. Do you not really want to wish you want to do this, please? Thank you. Couldn't hear the download. It better not show me some nudes or something. Otherwise, I would just feel mad if people can show me that. Because I gotta think of something, you know. Okay, Library Kid. I'm gonna save that episode. Let's move on to the next thing. Oh, I see. Library Kid, save. I'm gonna go ahead and call this Library Kid. The Library Kid. So I'm gonna do more Reese's jokes ever since. So put that as 44. And there. I'm gonna call it as Reese's Jokes episode 42. Call it the Library Kid. The Library Kid. And let's add some episodes from Reese's Jokes. And yeah. Just wanted to know. E7.
Now remember, people.
Okay, episode 42 is next, and I gotta do Reese's Jokes episode, so that's done. Okay. Check. Check. And check. Let's do this and we'll do this. See you tomorrow for LJ 2020 Day 303. See ya.